Hi everyone, I'm Todd C. Slater and welcome to this edition of SITV. First of all, I'd like to thank all the participants that joined us at the Canadian Real Estate Investor Forum, as well as the ODA ASM, which was the Dental Annual General Meeting. For the last couple of weeks, we've been able to meet all sorts of wonderful people, and of course, some of them are investors and are moving forward with buying investment properties, and it was a pleasure to meet you, and by all means, we're going to stay in touch. So this week, I'd like to take a little different spin on some of the contracting that we've talked about in past editions. Let's talk about landscaping this week. You know, that's that first impression that people have when pulling up to a property. Now, of course, for those of you that are buying condominiums, it's not that significant because in a lot of times the buildings themselves don't have a lot of grounds. But when you do buy a property that is a condominium and it does have, let's say, more of a larger landscape area, it's always nice to see some clean landscaping. Of course, that's that first impression. The reason why I like to focus about landscaping is because one of the things that people do is when they first walk up to the door, the landscaping is what meets their eyes and their feet. So in other words, what is below your feet? A lot of times we talk about things such as, let's say, interlock stone, perhaps cement, paving. When you are an investor, let's focus on the ones that are the easiest maintenance out there, of course. Because when you get too fancy, sometimes the look definitely does not pay for the actual maintenance. So one of the things that I always recommend, if you're going to own, let's say, a detached or semi-detached home that you are responsible for the landscaping, make it simple. Poured cement is probably one of the easiest things that you're going to be able to go with. Now, keep in mind that whenever you're talking about snow removal, you want to make sure the surface has a little bit of a rough edge. A lot of times people will use what they call a silica sand. That means that it's going to give it a little bit more of a porous feel, which means that when you're walking on it, it's going to have a little better grip. When we look at things such as patterned concrete, as beautiful as it may be, what happens in the wintertime, of course, is that you have to load a lot of salt on it, and sometimes it will deteriorate the actual finish. Now again, it's a pretty look, and it is a little bit expensive to have done, but again, from a maintenance perspective, may not be the smartest thing you can do as an investor. Now, other things such as, let's say, your gardens. Now, of course, you would like your tenants to take care of your gardens the way you would, but that may not always be the case. So a couple of things that I would recommend. Make sure that you buy plants that are going to be, let's say, annuals, okay? If you're going to be able to take them out, make sure that they don't make a lot of mess. Again, keep your ground cover low. The best thing you can do is put lots of mulch in, make sure you use a landscape cloth, that way the weeds aren't going to come up. Because again, if you're the one maintaining it, you don't want to spend a lot of time doing it. The Japanese grasses, a lot of the tall grasses, they're very pretty, they can come in different colors, and they're easy to maintain. You let them grow up through the summer, you pretty much cut them off in the winter, and again, they spring up the next season. Now, they also are very good because you don't need to water them a lot. And this is one of those things that you have to keep in mind. You know, the forecast this summer is saying that it's going to be dry and hot. So what is going to be the best way to landscape your property? Again, I tell you, keep it simple. So when you go to one of the nurseries, ask them, what are the kind of plants that you can get that, again, don't need a lot of water, have a lot of durability, and are not a lot of maintenance? Now, when we talk about the backyard, a lot of people will want to have things such as a deck or perhaps a patio. Now, keeping in mind that patios are great, that goes back to our interlock stone. Make sure that it's going to be fairly maintenance-free. You know, grass doesn't grow up between the stones. And again, looking at the property, what you want to do is see what will last the longest. Now, when you talk about decking, you know, the look of cedar is wonderful, but it needs a little bit more maintenance. So again, we talk about pressure treat. You know, pressure treat wood is one of the best things you can do for a deck. And again, make sure nobody stains it. After a year of it being out there, being brand new, you can put a clear water sealer on it. Make sure you do it every couple years because it's going to prolong the life of the actual deck. And again, this is one of those tips that you can keep in mind even for your own personal homes. If you're looking for something simple, very low maintenance, these are a couple of things that you should keep in mind. Again, when we take a look at landscaping, it can bring a great return and it can encourage a tenant to want to rent your property. But again, one of the most important things is make sure that you keep the maintenance low, because if you're the one maintaining it, you know how long it's going to take you. So that's it for this edition of SITV. Remember, we've got a seminar coming up on June the 7th, and we'd love to see you there. Thanks very much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.